The second Medarot collab Medarot that was introduced with the Mashin Hero Wataru collaboration, it is MEW01 Dark Tiger, with a kit of Hyper Missile, Tornado, Anti-Air, Multi-Legs, and the leg ability of G-Control, which grants S rank on all terrains upon a certain Metaforce charge. Now, I've mentioned it before with both Dead Quasar and with Leo, G-Control is arguably one of the best leg abilities in the game to make use of. If you put that on just about any kind of leg, no matter what the terrain is, once you can make that Metaforce threshold requirement, which at 5 stars about 30%, terrain issue is no longer a problem, and you'll always be operating at that high capacity and high efficiency as long as you can maintain it. So for that reason, primarily, Dark Tiger is going to rate pretty high just by himself for both mixed parts and pure, but moving forward with it. Hyper Missile, we have seen it before. It is a gunpowder-based attack that deals pierce damage instead of AoE. Previous bots that have had it up to this point, for instance, is Garuru Metal from the Digimon collaboration. Hardness 10 and Dekotom are two other staple icons and mascots essentially that do showcase the Hyper Missile skill. So it is a pretty solid skill to make use of across the board. Something else to mention that was brought to my attention is that it also is a non-heavy part, which means that you don't have to factor in a particular use of a heavy slot on your legs when equipping it, which means that you can still make use of a missile-based part with consistent pierce damage and really not have to worry about an AoE standing in your way by spreading damage too thinly. On top of that, Missile as a gunpowder move also never misses once you cap it at 5-star. So once you do cap it at 5-star, that high damage is something that'll be always there, and you can always guarantee the move will land. In addition to that, the other two skills he has are Tornado and Anti-Air, which is a very, very unique build, but he makes very good use of it very incredibly efficiently. Tornado, we have seen it before with King Pharaoh and with Ninja. It is a skill that is a shooting-based attack. It stuns the target and lifts them up in the air in that particular point on the field. It does also serve as more like a Deathlock Light to a degree, as it does prevent a target from either evading or defending, much like Freeze would. However, the other contingency to Tornado is that while they are still suspended in the air, they are susceptible to anti-air attacks, which is where his left arm comes into play. So basically, the best way to use Dark Tiger would be to use Tornado on a skill and get them suspended in the air first. And then, once they're in the air, have someone, or even Dark Tiger if he's fast enough, follow up behind them with an anti-air attack to absolutely lay waste to that particular target very quickly, as now they are suddenly susceptible to that ×7 damage bonus of anti-air if the part is fully capped at 5-star. And since Dark Tiger's skill does start base at 3-star, it's going to be very easy to make use of and raise without having to invest too heavily into ROMs and Cyplasium that you could be using towards something else. Across the board, he also is rather tanky, almost 39, nearly 4,000 HP for his head, little over almost 3,100 per arm, and almost 4,000 for his legs, so he's quite the tanky boy, and he can take a hit and still keep on kicking. Mobility of 869 also is fantastic for multi-legs, as arguably the next best under biped in my personal opinion. That high speed will definitely come into advantage. The only issue he does have that I see is that, of course, he does have a relatively low evade and melee resist, but his shoot resist does honestly offer some kind of compensation for that, with a reduced damage from incoming shooting attacks. Of course, I do have to tie that into G-Control, which does grant the terrain bonus once the Metaforce threshold has been met. So of course, all those stats essentially will go up by about 20% or so once that threshold has been met and can be maintained. As a pure set score, I would very easily rate Dark Tiger about an 8.5 out of 10, maybe a 9 even in some cases, depending on where you use him and how you use him. The one particular detriment I do see to him, however, is the issue that even though he has G-Control, which, as I said, is a very, very nice leg ability, arguably one of the best in the game, none of his parts on his build actually have a Metaforce requirement or condition, which means it's kind of stuck there. And if you want to make use of G-Control, it's going to cost you a turn in order to make use of it, and even then it's only his legs that are going to be taking advantage of that charge. So if you are going to use him, I wouldn't necessarily say G-Control is something that's a must to trigger in every battle, but it definitely will come in handy on fights where, say, multi-ped legs are not the best match. Say, for instance, Aquatic, which is really hard to match on consistently. In that case, then you could probably make use of a Metaforce charge to get that terrain bonus up and running, and then you can use Dark Tiger as normal. As mixed parts, I would rate him just a little higher at about a 9.5 out of 10. Almost a 10, but not quite, primarily because of his leg ability, of course, G control, non-heavy hyper missile that with a very solid high HP bank and high base power, and of course with mixed parts with tornado and anti-air. If you are going to make use of Dark Tiger as mixed parts, I would encourage that you use both his arms together, or at least make use of both of them somewhere in the team. So if you're not going to use them both on the same bot, I'd say maybe use one that does have tornado and the other one have anti-air, so you can very quickly 1-2 combo anyone that does potentially serve as a particularly dangerous or potentially threatening target that could cripple you very quickly if you overlook him.